Sorry. Welcome to the Heart to Heart Connection Summit. I'm so glad that you are able to join us today. I am your host, Susan Peters, and here with me today is my guest, Diana Previs. Welcome, Diana. I'm so glad to have you.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
I created this summit because I myself have been going on a journey of trying to figure out what my dreams are, because my heart got broken when my husband passed away 3 years ago, and I felt lost and I felt like I didn't have any dreams. And so I created this summit partly because of Diana Previs. She had a summit, and it was the first one that I had ever even known existed. And it was called Journey Through Grief with Grace. And she had 23 guests on there that helped me see grief and loss in a whole new way, in a positive way, to be able to step forward in new ways, with actually even having gratitude for grief, because it helped them to grow into doing new things. And so all of my speakers that are on this summit are people that have actually helped me to grow on my journey, to help me to stand and to walk again, and to grow, to nudge me, and to see that I actually could have some new dreams. So I would like to help you through your losses, to be able to know that you can go deeper into your heart and be able to find and connect to new dreams in your life and have new possibilities. So my guest, Diana Previs, is a humanitarian, a content creator, a holistic wellness facilitator, a Reiki master, an intuitive coach, and she's creating a podcast right now. And she also has a background in oncology as a patient advocate for that. So I would like to have her share a little bit more about some of the things in her life, what were your losses, and that helped you to step into new dreams, and how did you use your background to be able to do that? And I know you also have a special story to share with us about your heart.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. This is such an important topic. For me, providing the grief series, well, gosh, was it 3 years ago in 2021 now? Um, it was all about health prevention. I worked with thousands of cancer patients in my lifetime and back in corporate America, and I saw grief as being one of the #1 immune compromisers. So when I went through the loss of my dad, which ironically enough, I had just finished another series on gut health um, when my dad went into hospice.
Mm.
And he spent his final days at Riley House, which is a beautiful hospice center in Munster, Indiana. And I processed that, in order to move forward with my life. I kind of went through another round of thinking, how can I help other people? And the pandemic had happened at the time, and I just felt this tremendous amount of loss. And so I wanted to help people, and that's when I interviewed 23 people from around the world that were specialists in grief, and that's how you became part of the series.
Yeah,
So,
it was wonderful. It was so life touching, because it took people from all different areas, walks of life, religions and cultures, and helped me to see that we all grieve, we all go through things, and yet we all can support each other and walk each other through that, and get even stronger, and create new possibilities of hope, not just for ourselves, but for so many more people.
right. And the thing that I think people don't realize is that our emotions drive our wellness. And as I went through, working with uh, so many people in my lifetime through coaching and advocacy, I wanted to take this to the next level and start to create productions where there could be a series of people that could help with their own tools and techniques, whoever might be listening in the moment. And emotional phenomena causes physiological changes in the body. That is so important, Dr. John Sarno wrote a book called Healing Back Pain. And if anyone out there is experiencing that, it's a great book. But it just drives home the point about that you have to, this toxicity, you have to get this emotion out. And grief never leaves us.
Mm.
It's it's in a very important part of our life, because we will have grief come in. We have losses every day, whether you have the loss of the ending of a really great day, and the sunset is coming, or, you lose a loved one, or you lose a relationship, that grief, knowing how, and the tools about grief that can help us so we don't get paralyzed by it. It's so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, it really is. I honestly didn't realize how grief can affect your body. When I was going through grief, I mean, I know I was sad and I know my body took a hit for sure, but I did not realize how deep of a hit grief can go, and how big of an impact it can be on our body. I mean, it literally transforms our bodies from head to toe, basically. So it is important to be able to look at our bodies to heal.
Yeah. And when I worked in oncology, I was on a team where I had a lot of cancer patients that were in the digestive realm, like, pancreatic, colon, stomach, esophageal. And, we become very good at swallowing our emotions. And so then it just gets buried and buried and buried. And if you notice, when um, so when I did that, when I produced the series on gut health, it was all about health prevention. And then I thought, well, let's take that one step further. Before a person starts to have gut issues, what's causing those gut issues? It's some emotion that they're stuffing.
Mhm.
And grief is the number one immune compromiser. People can die from a broken heart. How many couples do you know? And I just think that this is phenomenal that you've taken this, and you're like a person that, instead of getting PTSD over something, you have a horrible event that happens to you, but you don't let that define you. And you've taken it, and then you've connected with others that are going through this tremendous loss, and everything is relevant. So, as we get older, our time speeds up. So, with this limited time we have, how do we want to spend it? You know,
Yeah.
being in a room just that has the lost memories, or do we go into the rest of the house and create new memories?
Yeah.
And the other thing that I think is really phenomenal about this is that not only are you healing as you're doing this with, each interview you have with each person you connect with, but you're being able to move forward. Some people just get stuck with that record and they never move out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, for a while I felt stuck. How that frozen icon on the computer screen just keeps spinning, spinning. That's how I was for a while. I mean, especially early on. It's just like such a shock. And but I knew I didn't want to stay that way. And that's the thing. I didn't want to stay in that, but I didn't know how to come out of it. And that is why all of everybody on this journey that's with me that will be speaking on this summit were so vital and important to me, because it gave me that new support that I needed. It wasn't just grief support, it was support and finding out, who am I? Like, I found out that when you have a broken heart, that's how the light gets in, and that's how you can start healing. And I started realizing that there were deeper parts of my heart that were really there, but I never knew they were there. And it like set off a spark in me to say, oh my gosh, I do still have something that I can give. I do have purpose in life. My husband, John, had his purpose. He lived it, and now he's not here anymore, but I still have mine. And I have like almost an obligation to find it and use it, because there is important things for me to share with other people also. So I found that almost, it's like when our hearts open like that, they get shattered or broken. We think it actually is almost like a key to get to something deeper inside of us that's been there all along, that leads us into a new way of looking at things and a new way of being able to live. It's almost like you get a new identity, and you can step now into a possibility of a new future, a new dream, a new way that you can contribute.
Right. And you know, the other thing I was thinking about when I was preparing for this today was different clients that I ended up coaching as a result of putting on that series about grief. For example, losing partners. Certain people really find out when you go through a death, a loss, you find out your skill set, your toolkit, right?
Mhm.
So those who can move on don't suffer from the experience that you have will is not the first, that's not the first loss experience. It's, you know, you've experienced that before, but I noticed with different clients that I had that those who had huge abandonment issues when they lost their spouse, they were paralyzed.
Mm.
They couldn't move forward. They couldn't, they were too afraid to move forward from the life that they had.
Mhm.
So they lived in the loss.
Mhm.
And I kept saying, you know, do you want to turn on that light? You know, it's right here. We can just flip that switch. And I know you're right there, because if you didn't want to turn on the light, you wouldn't have signed up to have me coach you. But we would have our hands there on the light switch, you know, just holding on that switch. We might flicker it on real quick and then we goes off real fast because, but if any of you are listening right now and say, well, that's me, I don't want to turn on the light switch, or my hand goes to the light switch, but I'm not flipping it on just yet. With each moment and time, you may feel like you're moving at a snail's pace, but you're still moving forward because awareness is what this is all about. You know, if your inclination wasn't to move forward, you wouldn't be listening to this right now. You'd be like, screw this, I'm going to watch some rerun of some show that I've seen.
Yeah.
Um, I was going to share with you something that's really important for people to understand, and I did not know this about myself. But some of us are so good at swallowing our emotions. We have absolutely no clue that we're not doing well. No, I got this. I got this. I can juggle all this stress. This is, you know, and then before we know it, the inside of us is telling us, no, you can't. And after I produced the grief series, I had already been through some big health changes. And when I'd gotten healthy enough, I had produced the grief series and I was so excited about it. But then after the momentum of producing this and wanting to help so many people and just, you know, I was right back where I started, meaning that I was sick and I had gone through an autoimmune disease. I had gone through the next journey was breast implant illness, which, you know, that was removed and there was arthritis all over the body. And then it went to every time I would go up and get better, and it would go back down. And then I would go up and then it would go back down. And I wasn't really aware of how I was showing up in life. And this is another thing that if you define yourself as being a rescuer, a martyr, or somehow feeling that you fit into this life only by being needed, you will make a quick exit. So right before you asked me to be on the show, I had an emergency pacemaker put in. I had no idea. I was working on something big again. And all of a sudden, my heart said, I think we'll sit this one out. So at being at 22 beats per minute, which a normal heart rate's 60 to 100, my heart was really shutting down.
Wow.
And I ended up with a new addition to my body. But it's also awareness that we have a limited time here, and how we spend it is very important. And the who, what, why, and where is even more important. So,
Yeah. Wow. That says a whole lot right there. It's, it's we are so important, ourselves, our hearts, our bodies, you know, and we have to take care of those bodies. And yet at the same time, we want to do everything for everybody. But what are your thoughts on, like, when I had lost John, I felt like I lost half my heart, which I'm sure you felt like when you just had this heart procedure, if it's going down to 22 beats and you had to have that helped. But when you realize that we have the power to have a whole heart, that's a whole heart, that's part of our spirit, because our heart here will die eventually, but our heart is also connected to our soul and our spirit. And when we realize how important we are and how important it is to love ourselves and take care of ourselves, that was part of the reason that I chose to marry my heart, and to say that I want to be able to trust and love myself 100% and then carry that forward, because then I can love other people in that way, and not, like you said, be a rescuer, or someone that's trying to do everything to help everybody. But we can love first ourselves, and then it goes out from there, it spills over. Do you feel that connection, especially now that you've had this issue with your heart
well,
and you've had loss?
yeah, well, it was so I'll tell you this funny story. I was working on a project for this doctor, and all of a sudden, I noticed your body is going to tell you there's a mind body marriage for sure. So anyone that's listening to this, this is the important takeaway I'd like you to have from this discussion. Your body is talking to you all the time. And you might have a whole lot of be the same record that's playing over and over again, the same song, you know. If you want to break that up, you can do different things by doing that. And there's, science has shown that you can, like, eat something crunchy, or you can do different activities to break up that same broken record in your head. But your body is constantly talking to you, and it's a reminder. So for me, I was starting to feel winded at times. I had no idea that my heart was shutting down. And when I finally had an episode that led me, when I was trying to take the dogs out, I made the doctor's appointment. I went from having a doctor's appointment, immediately being rushed to the emergency room, and then being told, hey, we're going to put a pacemaker in you the next morning. I woke up at 4:45 in the morning the next morning to a nurse standing over my bed saying, are you all right? Your heart is actually shutting down.
Oh, wow.
There were these resuscitate pads on my chest that were already placed, and I thought it was kind of overkill. I'm like, wow, this is never going to happen. They're never going to have to do it. And I thought, wow, maybe they're really going to have to do this. Maybe they're really going to have to jump. Everything was so surreal. My family was 2,000 miles away. I didn't have anything in place, no medical directive, no will, no trust, so last minute trying to, with limited oxygen and blood flow going to my brain, I'm trying to text, call, whatever, scribble on a piece of paper. And the reason why, you asked me this question about the connection with your heart, I had a conversation with my heart when she left the room. And my son made a funny suggestion about meditating. I'm like, Alex, I don't want my heart to get any more relaxed than it already is. Not a good situation. I hung up the phone, and I would have beat on my heart, but I didn't want to mess up the resuscitate pads. And I was like, what's going on? Why are you shutting down on me? And the first time that I had this connection with speaking to parts of my body and wanting to know, I had this rush of emotion come up in my chest and my eyes. All of a sudden, my eyes filled with tears. And I was thinking about all the times that I had, I wrote a story about this. I gave my heart out like it was Halloween candy.
Mhm.
I forsake my heart for all others. And I let people walk on it like it was a doormat at times, just to feel like I was needed, or I was rescuing, or I was a martyr.
Mhm.
And when you feel that, and anyone that's going through grief right now, your heart obviously is going to be trampled, but look at that and ask yourself, what am I really in pain about?
Mhm.
I mean, obviously this person is not here, but am I mad that that person left? Am I mad that I got crap that I still have to deal with here and I got to do it by myself?
Mhm.
There's all things that we have, our heart holds.
Yep.
And I did this funny story as a cathartic process for myself, which is really healing for me. But the more I talk to my heart, the more emotion just kind of like released.
Mhm.
So it's a very powerful part of this process, connecting with your heart.
Yes.
Um, and that's what saved me being alone, but that by the time the chaplain had come in to just say, hey, good luck, on this surgery you're going to have, I was feeling pretty good because I felt like all parts of myself were like intact, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. But you had to go through the journey of that to get to where you were, right?
Well, that and the fact that after the aftermath of waking up and having someone else be the supervisor in the house
Hmm.
was not, nobody was happy. I was just like, I had heat swells and sweats, and I would wake up and my heart would be beating so fast, and so it was like it took this rhythm again. I had to be able to work with there's a mind body connection. And some people don't like meditating because they can't be with their stillness. So in those cases, I would suggest, if you can do anything, um, to help, like I had the year before, I had arthritic, really bad back surgery. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. And I was chanting in my head, pain-free 2023, pain-free 2023. And something that you can do that can break up that frequency that's going on in that moment for you, do it, whatever that looks like. Maybe that means even, taking a run, or, I don't know. But those little tricks can help you.
That's good to know, because anything that we can do to help ourselves out of a place that is not healthy for us, whether it's emotional, physical, spiritual, we need to let go of the trigger that's bothering us, and change our perspective, change our focus to something else, so that we can move forward, even if it's just baby steps, whatever it is, to take us into a different momentum, right?
Right, right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what I had found with my heart. I felt like I was holding my heart like almost on a leash. I thought I was getting better and doing things that were getting me through my grief, but I realized I was kind of on a long leash. And because of that, I was still tied to the past of what was keeping me and holding me in sadness and grief. And when I finally realized that only I have the power to let go of that leash, I'm the only one that can unhook it from myself and let me go. And then once I did that and I freed my heart, then I was like, oh my gosh, I actually have the ability to choose what I can do to make my life a little bit better, and it took increments. It doesn't just happen overnight, but like you said, whatever you can do, affirmations, say, telling yourself positive things to help yourself move forward, going outside into nature, listening to music, or doing things, walking or running, exercise to help you through. It helps your body know that you care about it, right?
Right, right. Well, there's just we are just a one big range of emotions of consciousness. So if you can even imagine that, when you were a kid, they had the projector and they had the light, and then all of a sudden you'd see this picture on the screen.
Yeah,
We're just particles of light.
yeah,
You can switch those particles at any time. The problem becomes is that when you're in such a deep, dark space, having that energy to drive to the next higher frequency of emotion. That's why I think of having, appealing to all the senses on hand, and having it that, maybe what are your go-tos? What are your things that will absolutely make you feel better? What some people, it's funny when they say when they sell a house, you should bake cookies when you're going to go ahead and show a house, because it has that warm
homey
smell.
feel.
Yeah, that home baked feel, like a hug.
Yeah,
Having aromatherapy there in the house can help you. Having different types of music, appealing to, the sight, the sound, the sense of everything that can help make things more comfortable for you
yeah.
as you're, and as grief never really goes away.
Mm-mm.
There's going to be new pockets that will be unleashed. I mean, and I had no idea that I had these things locked up, or that I'd been carrying this. But you got to figure the heart is the first thing that forms,
Mm.
and it's the last thing that leaves.
Wow. Yeah.
So, and it's the container for everything that's worthwhile in your life. You know, um, you can make, you know, decisions based on logic, but they won't stick, because if they're not heart based, you're only conforming to the moment.
Mm. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, the heart, it plays such an important role, and that's something I've just so much learned through grief, and it's ironic because through any loss, it's your heart takes a big hit, but it's through that so much more can come, if you allow it to. I mean, you have to still make the choice. You have to take the steps to do that. And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that we can do, sharing in this summit. And along with that, doing our using our senses and everything. I just had one more thing I wanted to ask about how important you feel it is to have connection to other people and support and collaboration to get through your losses and through your challenges like grief, because I know I couldn't do it by myself. There's definitely times that you need your alone space to grow through it, and you do need to go inward, because that's the only way you can come out. But I couldn't have done it, I don't think, without the support.
Oh, well, isolation is the biggest killer.
Yeah.
So there's many things about this, about the collective consciousness. So birds of a feather flock together. That's the old phrase, right? You want to make sure that when you're in this trajectory going through the grieving process, that you don't stay in one room too long.
Oh, that's a
And
really good.
some people can't go out of the room, like I said, because they identify. And, this one client that I had in particular, I said to her, I said, are you afraid that if you move forward and start to have joy in your life, that, you have, um, what is it? What do they call that? Survivor guilt.
Oh yeah.
Because, and I think that that was part of it for her, of having survivor guilt, that I'm here and you're not. But the other part of it was, if she didn't identify with that space of being in grief and being the widow and being, in this hurtful place, she had nothing else to identify herself with.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's like, go out there, literally go to the store, go get a box of Play-Doh and just start playing with the clay and see what happens.
Mhm.
And just being on autopilot, because it's a very tactile exercise that you can do,
Yeah.
or paints or crayons, whatever. Notice the colors that you're choosing, because that all has meaning, and it's your body is trying to communicate with you. You are so many layers deep. And as far as the, having community, what you're doing is very, very important. It's not only are you healing yourself, but, you guys are all forming a circle,
Yeah.
you know, that you can, and it's a relay. So when somebody is not doing well, then the other person comes up and they help you along,
Yeah.
to get you to that next level.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just so appreciative that you started this whole journey for me, and now look at it's coming full circle, so that we can share it now with another new group of people to be able to get through our grief in more ways, because we're all learning more and more day by day, and learning that we should not be afraid of grief, but that we really should embrace it, and it can help us. It can really help us and teach us so many things.
Grief is a part of our daily lives, whether it is, again, so profoundly the loss of someone in your life, a child, a sibling, a parent, a partner,
Mhm.
or if it's just losing out on something that you can't be replaced. Grief helps us to be able to have that moment of celebrating what you had
Yeah.
and sending it off, and then actually being able to welcoming something new, and it's kind of like that song Closing Time, you know, the last call for alcohol. Somebody's ending is always somebody's new beginning. I
Wow.
don't know, something like that. But yeah, it's in a very important process of life. And if we do it well, then we won't get sick.
Yes, that's a huge point. That is such a huge point. And that's what I want, is to help that we can all keep helping each other to do it well. That's
Yeah.
so important. Um, I wanted to see if you have, I appreciate everything that you've been sharing, and I know that you might have a little bit of something to share as a gift for everybody who's listening, to help them through their to process anything. Do you like to share something about that?
Well, for those of you that are going through grief at this time, I'm going to work out a situation in the show notes that this series, that we can make a part of the series available to you for people to listen to, and that they can get the additional help that they might need and want. I can make that available to you at the end of this,
Okay.
and I can work it out so they can have that. Um, we're working on a podcast. It's called The Happiness Factor WTF. And what it is, it's going to be about knowing how profoundly our subconscious, the being happy on a subconscious level, is so important to us for our autonomic nervous system. So it's going to be this crazy things that you've never even thought about, that will people are going to have access to. They're going to be like, wow, this is wild, I never knew this. And we're going to have it fun and just have it, just be a little tidbit for people's day. We'll share that with you when it's available. And people can reach out to me at dianaprevis.com.
Okay. Great. Yeah, and we'll definitely have that on the page too, along with your other information for them. Thank you so much. And I would like to share something else, but I would like to see if you had anything else to say. Do you have anything else you want to share, or?
I think I'm good.
Okay, well then I'm going to share this. It's from Diana's website. I really love what this says. She says at the end, "Let's transform our lives one mindful step at a time towards a future brimming with potential and vibrant health." And I just love that. I think it's a
Oh,
beautiful way to end.
yes. Well, we're all in this together, right?
Yes. So thank you so much, Diana. I really appreciate you joining us, and for all that you have shared today from your hearts. Thank you so much. And thank you for touching my heart to begin with, so that it started this whole effect, or the summit would not be happening for sure. And my book never would have been written either. So thank you, Diana, from the bottom of my heart.
No
And
problem.
thank you, everybody who has been listening today. We appreciate you being here, and may you have good health and be able to move forward through your losses with grace. Thank you.